name is Michael Smook. I'm here for YouTube Talks, episode number 18. The topic of today's conversation is thriving and surviving throughout my career. Today is August 26th. It's a Saturday. We're in the year 2017, and I'm on vacation in Mesa, Arizona. The reason why we're having this chat today stems from the fact it was 40 years ago in May of 1977. I received a bachelor's degree in political science from LIU Post, and I wanted to take this time to talk to you about the ups and downs of my career and share with you this memoir. Before we get started, let me outline what the chat's going to be about. Chapter 1 will be talking to you about getting started and building a career. Chapter 2 will be times when I was thriving. Chapter 3 will be transitioning from thriving to surviving. And Chapter 4 will be, they took it all away from me, yet I'm still doing fine. And with that said, let's move forward together. Getting started and building a career. When I graduated from college, in my head, heart, and stomach, I was talking to myself, and I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do next. I had a college degree, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Fortunately, I ended up working in government for the New York State Judiciary for 2 years as a junior analyst. And what I learned 3 to 6 months into the job was, unless I was willing to move up to Albany, which was a 3-hour drive or more away from home, it really wasn't going to, there weren't going to be many opportunities to build a career. And at 22 and 23, moving 3 hours away from either New York City or Long Island, that wasn't very appetizing to me. So what happened is I went back to school. I finished a master's in public administration, and toward the end of my schooling, I started taking courses in healthcare administration. It seemed like a growing area of the economy, and I thought that maybe someday down the road, somewhere, somehow, I would be able to combine my interest in government and healthcare administration and build a career. And so what I did was I worked as a supervisor in business office management in nonprofit and private sectors, and also as a manager. And in addition to, well, I didn't feel that my career was progressing as fast as I'd like. And for many years, it was what I could best describe as a long, tough, hard slog. And actually, I thought I was underachieving. But I hung in there, and I showed up at every work, and I did the best job I could. And in the process, I learned how to manage people in terms of writing up job descriptions, training, evaluating employees, dealing with challenges when they gave me a hard time, and also getting projects done. And also, I added to my graduate degree. I took a continuing education program at mostly at St. John's, also at LIU Post, in healthcare financial management, focusing on hospital reimbursement. And so basically, that was the first 9 years. Actually, it's the first 12 years out of college. That was 9 years working in the nonprofit and private sector and in healthcare, but 12 years overall working post-undergraduate degree. Along the way, I got the master's degree, and eventually I ended up in government in a professional level position. And that takes us to Chapter 2, working in government and thriving. So basically, I hung in there during the first 12 years of post-undergraduate, and I did get a job in government. And it was when I finally was able to work in government that I realized everything I learned, especially in the last 9 years, working in ambulatory care, supervising people, it wasn't the fastest track in the world of healthcare finance, business office management, or patient account management, but I realized that everything I needed to do used in government helped me with the past experiences. So I had a good run in government. The first 21 out of 28 years, I was thriving. And let me just give you a couple of things, a couple examples about what I cherish most about the projects that I've worked on. But before I do so, let me mention that in the course of my 28 years in government, I've worked with health commissioners who've gone on to work for President Obama. And also I passed 3 civil service exams. One was an open competitive, one was a promotional mid-level exam for mid-level analysts and managers. One was upper mid-level and senior level manager, analyst, and manager exam that I took. These were rarely given exams and challenging exams, and I passed them. And later on, what I learned that passing these exams down the road helped save my job. So in terms of the projects that I work on that I value most when I was thriving, what I'm thinking about, let me work one special project that I could share with you. I can't share with all of them. Time prevents me from going into detail about all of them. Let me share with you one project. In the early part of the previous decade, a senior manager and a physician who operated a clinical program, she came to me and she said, look, we would like to put computers in our clinics. Could you work on the contracts and the justification to make it so? So I said, sure. So I worked on a justification document, and then I collaborated with other people on a contract. So over time, in 2002 and 2003, we were able to put computers in clinics with software tailored to the needs of this clinical program. And they also set up computers with the same capabilities in the central office as well. Let me give you one other example of a project that I worked on. I work in public health, and since September 11th, public health is involved. Whenever there's some sort of emergency, public health plays a role. Either public health is the lead agency, or they work with other agencies, environmental protection, police, fire, and so on, depending upon the emergency that's involved. So what happened was in 2009 and 10, we had a flu outbreak, and it was fearful that it would be a virulent strain of flu, the H1N1 novel flu. And I was chosen to leave my desk and go out in the field, and for 3 months I was out in the field as a team leader, working with other team leaders, supervising with clericals and nurses, coordinating logistics, working with principals, assistant principals, and teachers. And at first it was tough because there'd be hundreds of kids. We'd walk into a school and it seemed like it was utter chaos. And I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to be the lead team leader or work as the valued deputy or number 1 team leader or number 2 team leader. I really wasn't sure how to do the job. It was stressful and I was exhausted. I'd come home every day exhausted. What really helped me get through this challenging part of this 3-month tour of duty was my fellow team leaders were awfully helpful, and also there were people at central office I could speak to and who would provide me with the backup that I needed. So so basically the 3 months, it went well. It was a fight or flight situation. I wasn't terribly comfortable with it, but I hung in there, and over time I got to be very good at it. And now that I look back 7 and 8 years later, I'm awful glad that I hung in there. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't happy when it started, but I was able to just tough it out and hang in there, and it was a good experience, and it's something that I'm really glad that I hung in there, and now I'm talking about it today in a YouTube talk in terms of my memoirs. So those are 2 examples that I've given you about when I was thriving, a special project, putting computers in a clinic, and during a public health emergency, doing something heroic as a team leader and first responder, going out into the field and helping directly or indirectly, helping make the world a better place. That's the only reason I wanted to get involved into government. I took courses in political science and public administration as an undergraduate and a graduate student, and these continuing education courses in healthcare administration, and I wanted to be involved in something that related to what I was reading about in the newspapers. And I wanted to directly or indirectly help make the world a better place. So these 21 years where I was thriving, those are two examples of the projects that I worked on. Now let's talk about Chapter 3, transitioning from thriving to surviving. You have to understand this. In 2002, I was approached by a senior manager, an assistant commissioner for finance, and his #1 deputy, the director of revenue and budget, and they said, "You're doing a terrific job. Write up a justification of everything that you've done. We'll polish it, send it through the bureaucracy, and we're going to get you a double-digit raise." And this was a real surprise to me because this doesn't happen very often. And incidentally, the two bosses who approached me, they were not the nicest people in the world, but for some reason, they liked me. So who was they going to argue with that, a possible 10% raise and the fact tough bosses liked me? So, you know, that went through, and that was in 2002 and 3, and I'm very proud of that. And so what happens is suddenly we're 10 years later, I'm no longer reporting to a senior manager, and I have different responsibilities. I'm doing some contractual work, and I'm also doing work involved logistics. And I had a boss, this is in the second half of 2011 and the first half of 2012. These are 6-month intervals. Back to back, I received unsatisfactory reviews from the same person. And I found out this person was prosecuting a case to have me demoted in civil service rank, cut in salary, with the idea that it would be easier to terminate my employment. So here I am, I went from the A list, past the B list, onto somebody's S list, and my job was in jeopardy. And I was able to get through this difficult time. I have a supportive wife, supportive friends, a mental health team behind me. I consulted with a private lawyer. I consulted with the union lawyer. And also, after talking to my wife, I decided that I needed to not only come into work every day and do a good job and work hard to try to get past this situation. I needed to stop my focusing on my challenges in my career. So what I did is I went back to school. I took other courses in healthcare administration. That's 25 years later. This time it was physician reimbursement. There were courses in accounting, human physiology and pathology, and coding, diagnosis and procedure coding. So really what I'm talking about is it took all my mind off of my challenges and off of the stress, and I needed to give everything I could at work, but I needed to have something left over for 2 nights a week, 3 and 4 hour classes at Queens College. So so what that did is it focused me, and a lot of my energies, intellectual energies, emotionally, went to doing well in school. And this is perhaps a way out. Maybe after this, completing the program, I would go to graduate school or take a national certification exam or something. Instead of waiting for something good or bad to happen, I was doing something. So this was a very proactive thing, and it was very helpful. As it worked out, I wasn't demoted, and I've sort of moved back from the S list to a B list. I'm somewhere in between. I'm doing fine. I'm involved in logistics, and my bosses seem to like me. So really, basically what I've done is I've summed up all the things that I did, and in particular focusing on school and having a supportive family behind me. It all helped me get through this transition from thriving to surviving. Now let's talk about the last chapter. Let's talk about let's talk about how they took it all away from me, and yet I'm still happy. This is what it's about. 2 years ago, my wife, a number of other people have said, you know, you write really well about, you have lots of ideas, especially about politics and economics and all the rest. You should write essays and post it on the internet, have your own blog, and that you can channel a lot of your energies.